What story are you telling yourself when you go to sleep? What story are you telling yourself when you wake up? What story are you telling yourself when you walk around throughout your day? What if I told you that this story you live your life by is actually an illusion? Some people live great stories that live on past their deaths, while others live stories that die even before they've died. But the one thing present in all these stories is the active presence of a storyteller. You are that storyteller, and your ego is the avatar you use to experience the story you tell yourself every day. You are not your ego, but the problem is, most people don't know this. Most people live their lives believing the story that they don't have the power to create their lives, that they just aren't a lucky person, that they just aren't successful, that they just aren't worthy. Most people live their lives as a side character in their own film because they have chosen to believe the story, and their ego, their sense of self, their lens from which they view the world, continues the story in their mind, therefore creating the story in their outer world. But at the end of the day, you are not your ego, and it's time you learn how to create your own story, thereby creating your own ego. Picture the ego as a voice in your head, a demon or an angel on your shoulder, always feeding to you thoughts about who you believe yourself to be. The ego is what makes you feel like an individual, and is also what causes you to feel a sense of separation from everything else. It is your individuality you experience the world from. Remove the ego, and all that remains is your true self, which is the creator of your ego. For you to truly understand the ego, I want you to picture everything in existence as an infinite ocean of life that goes on into eternity. This ocean is everywhere, in all things, has always existed, and it is alive and aware of itself. It contains everything there ever was, is, and will be. You, me, and everyone else are a part of this infinite ocean, meaning we are all connected and essentially the same thing, expressed in a different form through the ego. The ego is like a tiny bottle of water submerged in this infinite ocean of life. This submerged bottle of water creates the illusion of separation from the ocean we are all a part of, because when you're inside the bottle, you can only see outside through the lens of the bottle. But if this water bottle somehow opened, the contents of the bottle would be released back into this ocean and would no longer feel separate. In fact, it would realize that it was never separate at all, because it is everything, including the water bottle, which it made. This is a form of ego death. We are all tiny bottles of water submerged in this infinite ocean we call life, experiencing the illusion of individuality through the bottles of water or ego we are contained in. The problem is that most people don't realize that they are not their ego, and that they actually have the power to change their tiny water bottle into any form they wish, thereby changing themselves and the results they get out of life. Most people have become slaves to their ego, and unknowingly allow their ego to rule them through the stories they believe about themselves. Maybe as a child, they were told that they weren't good enough, or that they didn't deserve love, and they internalized this message into their subconscious mind without realizing it, and formed a belief about themselves. Your subconscious mind is where all your beliefs are contained. The beliefs inside your subconscious mind literally controls 95% of your results. In other words, the beliefs you've internalized into your subconscious mind are actively creating your reality without you even knowing it. Most of the beliefs contained in people's subconscious minds were formed during their childhood through repetition, because at this time, the mind is most open to programming due to the conscious self or conscious mind not yet being fully formed. If you come to understand this, you will also come to understand that you can consciously choose what you want to internalize into your subconscious mind through the use of repetition and change your beliefs, thereby changing your reality. The problem is, most people have no idea about this, and they essentially live their lives as a slave to their beliefs formed from past life experiences that were out of their control. The ego is what continues to perpetuate and feed this story to the person over and over again. Like everyone, they feel desires for more and maybe even try to act on these desires sometimes. But eventually, their ego wins them over using logic or fear, which causes them to eventually quit and settle. They go back to their old life they hate. They go back into their comfort zone, and they stay there for the rest of their lives, living a life they are not fulfilled by, because they have allowed their ego to convince them that their heart's desire and true purpose is just a fantasy. This is called stagnation. In this infinite ocean of life, everything is moving. Nothing is still. And if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. In truth, this is death. And this is how the majority of our world is currently living. Why do you think the world is in the state it is in? Because the majority of people in the world are stagnating, and the world is a reflection of who we are. If we stagnate, the world stagnates, and if we prosper, the world prospers. The time has come for the world to prosper again, and just by you learning about this information, you have become conscious and now have the choice to bring light or darkness into our world. But how do you identify your ego? If you've ever had the desire to step outside of your comfort zone and felt a strong feeling of fear, or instantly thought of why you shouldn't do what you're doing, this is your ego. You see, your ego does not want to change. Change to the ego is death. So when you step outside of your comfort zone and act out of a purpose towards a goal or a higher cause, your ego will do everything in its power to cause you to quit. And most people do. The ego does not want you to change, because if you change, it dies and becomes a new ego that supports your new self. But if you don't change, just remember that you die. All your desires, all your hopes, all your dreams, and your ego wins. You may not wish to hear this, but your ego is designed to challenge you to grow. So what is the ego, you might ask? It's your greatest enemy, and also your greatest friend, depending on how you look at it. Those who conquer their egos are remembered by all and live a story repeated in history, while those who are conquered by their egos are forever forgotten. Conquer your ego and live the life you want to live, not the life your ego or anyone else has told you. Thank you. If you learned something from this video and want to learn more, make sure to join our family by subscribing for more content. And don't forget to hit that like button and comment down below. Until next time, this is Success Mindset, and remember, dreams do come true.